All right. We are officially streaming on YouTube, so I'm gonna give this a couple more minutes and then we'll kick things off. Also, if you're new to these sort of boot camps and these things that we do, you can go ahead and chat. If you go to like the voice channel we're in, there's like a little chat button, and you can open the chat, and that's where everyone starts talking in the chat. Um, so yeah, I am very excited for this. I'm not gonna lie, because I get to see a lot of you old noobs back at it again. That were you were with us with the beginner cadence boot camp, and we had a ton of fun with those. I think we ended up doing like what was it, 5 or 6 beginner cadence boot camps, um, and it was so fun to drag all of you along with me during those. But I guess we all get to come together now, and now all of you are back to being noobs again. So this is going to be very fun for me, and seeing a lot of familiar faces. BZ, obviously, welcome back. Sweet, happy to see you here. Falcon, what's up? How's everything going, Falcon? Snowmobiles, our one of our top instructors, is back to being a complete newbie. We'll have to catch up later. Oh, that's no problem. But yeah, Snowmobiles, I'm very curious to see what you have to say about this course. Cheetah says, "Here we go again." You're right, Cheetah. Here we go again. And I have high expectations for you because last time when you did the beginner cadence boot camp, you did it like very quickly somehow. I don't know how you did it, but you're a fast learner, Cheetah. Um, what's up, Rena? Good to see you here. I don't recognize you, but it's great to have you in the academy now. Um, oh yeah, we have Jaroon here. Let's go. Let's go. Wait, Jaroon, did you graduate the beginner cadence boot camp? For some reason, I can't remember, and also you don't have the warlock role.
Yeah, well, actually, I got to about the not the last one, but the course before that, and I I didn't manage to finish it, but that's like the course where it all came together,
Yes.
um, which is probably the most important one. But I'm kind of a perfectionist, so to get that straight, yeah, I was kind of having a hard time, and now I'm joining the intermediate course. I really hope how I'm gonna survive that. I'm gonna survive this one, but
Well, I bet you could do it. And listen, if it ever gets a little too complicated, you can always go back to the beginner one. So no
yeah,
stress at all.
cool.
Um, yeah, I also see we have Raven here. Raven, what's up? Somehow Raven is probably our most participated student. Very dedicated student, but still has not yet graduated the beginner cadence course. So, Raven, maybe one day. Um, oh, what's up, Numini? Are you making fun of my speech in chat? That's great. Classic Numini here. Bam! Oh, we have Bam here. Cadence legend, Bam. Bam is already. What is this role? Oh yeah, Cadence Magus. Nice. Hola, Banji. Great to see you as well. All right. And Ricardo here, another amazing instructor from the Beginner Cadence Bootcamp. So, welcome everyone back to the Emerald Academy. Very quickly, I just want to mention that there's a slight chance that my power goes out while this is happening. So, if I suddenly leave, it's not because I hate all of you. It's just because my power went out. So just want to throw that out there. Okay. But yeah, welcome to the intermediate cadence course. In this boot camp, or I guess boot camp really. In this boot camp, we're going to be going over more complicated cadence concepts. In fact, let me share my screen here so you can all sort of read along with me. You can look at my screen by going in Discord and clicking on my little name and clicking, I think it's like watch stream or something, right? Um, so yeah, right now, actually, let me also send the link in chat here so you can all have access to the course content. So this course is completely new. In fact, I just made it public yesterday. So all of you that are in this Discord right now are going to be some of the first people to actually go through this course. And as far as I'm aware, I don't know of any other like intermediate slash more advanced cadence courses that exist out there. So you're going to be in for a bit of a ride here. But that also is to say that because this course is new, there might be a lot of mistakes in it, that we might change some things along the way. So if you go through this material and you find mistakes or whatever, don't be afraid to ping me. You can always do that in the Emerald Academy Discord here, in the general chat or in developer forum, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to just ping me. This is a very relaxed boot camp that we're gonna go through together. So some of the things that we're gonna know by the end of this course, we're gonna master capability-based control. So during the beginner course that we did a couple months ago, we talk about capabilities. We talk about, making things public in the public domain and how to allow users to read our NFTs or read our fungible token balances. But we're going to really dive into capabilities and see exactly what they are, and how we can better use them. So that's number one. We're also going to really dive into understanding issues with poor capability links and how to work through them. Now, this is sort of getting into like the real world now. So in the beginner cadence bootcamp, we teach syntax, we teach what things are, we teach, if you want to make an NFT contract, this is like one way to do it. But you're really learning like, very factual information. Whereas in this course, we're gonna, sort of dive into the real world and discover some of the real problems that Cadence developers work with. And one of them is, as we introduced during the beginner Cadence bootcamp, is poor capability links. And if you've ever worked in the Dapper, ecosystem, or you've worked with NFT projects, there's no doubt you've encountered poor capability links somewhere. So we're going to dive into that as well. We're also going to talk a lot about admin-based control. So how do we better allocate admin control across our contracts? We're going to talk about improving the efficiency and readability of transaction and script code. So one thing that's always very clear to me is that, when I view someone's cadence code, I can pretty much tell right away whether or not they're just getting started with it or if they've been using it for a long time, just based on how they write their code. So we're going to be talking a lot about that as well. Um, a lot of miscellaneous information like handling time in Cadence. That's something I use a lot, but I never really taught formally. And also helpful patterns to control permissions and improve efficiency. So this is sort of vague, but you'll understand what this means more when we go through. Um, so this is just some of the stuff we'll be learning. There's a lot more stuff in here, and you'll probably be again thrown for a loop throughout this course, but just try your best, and I'm sure you'll do fine. So, who is this course meant for? It's meant for people that want to get a stronger understanding of cadence. Again, this isn't really an advanced course, it's really an intermediate step. It's sort of between a beginner and an advanced course. It's in the middle. So, if you've taken our beginner cadence course before, which would be this link right here, if you've taken this, then you're prepared for this. If you haven't, then I can't really guarantee you're going to, be able to get this right away. But if you've been coding in Cadence for a bit and you really want to just advance, your understanding of it, then I would certainly try this course out. And of course, there's no pressure, right? If you go into this course and it's really, difficult and whatnot, you're more than welcome to just take a break and go back to the beginner Cadence course and try again at whenever you want, right? This is just public forever now. So don't worry at all. Don't feel any pressure about this. Um, so how is this going to work? Well, again, if you've taken our beginner cadence course, then it's the exact same thing really. We're going to have 2 workshops a week. So one of them is going to be Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, which is where we are right now. And the second one is going to be Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Bit of a weird time, but I learned throughout the previous boot camps I've done that I really don't like nighttime lessons. So I'm trying to put it somewhere in the afternoon. But if that doesn't work for you, we can change up the time somewhere halfway through. Um, so those are the live workshops. Otherwise, this boot camp is mostly asynchronous, which means that you're going to be reading through this content and answering quests on your own time, and you'll be submitting quests inside Discord. So I'll give you an example. Inside chapter 1, if we go to day 1, if you go all the way to the bottom, there are quests for you to do. In fact, there's a pretty significant amount of quests for you to do. So you'll answer all these questions, and what you'll do is you'll upload these to whatever note stock you want. You could literally put them in Google Docs. You could put them in a GitHub README. You could put them in like an online notes platform that you use, whatever you want. And then you're going to take that link. You're going to go to Discord, and you're going to go to Intermediate DApp Submissions, this channel, and you're going to paste the link right here. Okay. And when you paste the link, it's going to automatically create like a needle thread. and I'll be able to answer all of your questions or all of your quests inside here. Um, Now, one more thing, just pretty obvious, but because no one has taken this course before, I'm the only one that knows the answers. So that also means I'm the only instructor, which also means that it's going to take me a lot longer to get through everybody because I'm going to be trying to answer so many people's quests all at the same time. So if you don't get a response in a day, it's probably because I just haven't seen it yet. If it's been like 2 or 3 days, then I would ping me because I probably just, missed it. But just please give me a little bit of time to work through the questions because I am the only instructor here. Um, so yeah, and also because this is like a very communal experience, um, if you have like previously done quests, and I've answered them and said, "Oh, you got this right," then if you want to, feel free to go and help other students who are maybe a bit behind you. That's totally fine as well. So you can do that. Also, yes, Numini, I am a genius. You are correct about that. Um, but yeah, help each other out. And if someone has a question and you know the answer to it, if you answer it, I'd be very grateful because it helps me. And also, as many instructors say, best way to learn is to teach, right? So, yeah. Okay, so that is quests and a little bit more of the admin stuff of this boot camp. Um, oh, quizzes. I should probably delete that. Actually, there's no quizzes. I don't know why that's in here. There are currently no quizzes. So no quizzes. That was just for the beginner course. Okay. I believe that's it. So, are there any questions so far about, sort of the structure of this boot camp or how it's going to work? And if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat here. I see a couple people typing, so how to pee also hey YouTube question maybe. So should we use the developer forum for questions or a specific channel? That's a great question, Amethyst. So if you have any like administrative questions like when's our next workshop or how do I submit quests, that should be in the chat channel. However, if you have any like developer related questions like why is this giving me an error or how do I solve this problem or how do I import whatever it is, any developer question, I would ask in the developer forum. I really encourage people to always use the developer forum. One, because you can go back and you can search for questions like Stack Overflow, so it helps other people. And also, if you ask good questions in the developer forum, people can upvote you with little energy points, and you get energy points for doing that. And we haven't really solidified that yet, but it is sort of like a fun gamified experience in that sense. So, in short, I would use the developer forum. Yeah, cool. All right, so are we ready to get started with the first chapter? I think today the farthest we'll get is finishing day 2, but I don't even know if we'll get there. All right, let's do it. So if there's no other questions, I'll just dive right into it. So today we're going to be talking a lot about capabilities and what they really are, and also discovering some problems with them. So let's do it. Um, to recap, it's sort of the beginner cadence bootcamp a little bit, or if you didn't take it, the sort of introduction to capabilities. But you'll remember this image where there's different paths, right, on accounts on Flow. There's a storage path, there's a public path, and there's a private path. Now, each of these things is pretty different. Obviously, the storage path is where all your data is stored. Your public path is where basically people can access your data, right? The public can access this data on the public account. Um, and private image not changing. What do you mean, Nimini? Oh, you mean like it's not changing from the previous course? Yeah, it's the same thing. Um, and there's private, which is only people with access that basically have the key to that place in storage can access this location. Oh, image not changing on YouTube. Oh, that's weird. I guess I'll have to fix that at some point later. Um, but yeah, and the public and private domains, these are capabilities to places in storage. So these are arrows that point toward storage. Okay. So this is just a slight recap from the account storage that we covered in beginner bootcamp. And we also remember we never even covered private capabilities, but we will during. So let's actually dive into capabilities a little bit and really understand what's going on with them. So what I've done, just as some preparation, is I made this little token contract. Now this token contract, you should be able to understand all of this. There's a resource called Vault. Yes, this is being recorded, Noah. Um, there's a resource called Vault that has a balance, a deposit function, a withdrawal function, to just it's sort of like a fungible token. And there's this function called create vault, which you can pass in a balance and it just gives you that vault. Now this isn't even like an official fungible token contract. It's just a random contract I made. And as you'll notice, there's public minting available, so sort of a dummy contract. And the other cool part is there's a resource interface called public that basically exposes balance and deposit um, on this vault. So we can go ahead and link this to the public. So let's do that. Now, one other thing that I want to mention is that I would like this bootcamp to be very interactive. So I'm going to sometimes wait for responses in the chat to see if people are following along. And also because I think that, part of the requirement for passing this bootcamp is going to be participating in these workshops, so that I can really get direct feedback that you're understanding the material. Um, so with that being said, how would I go ahead, based on this contract, how would I go ahead and write a transaction to save a vault to my storage? What function could I call to create a vault, first of all? And even if someone answers the question, I would still post the answer in chat because I'm sort of going to be rating feedback. Make sure that you're getting this content. Almost like I'm testing you. And sometimes when I respond to your request, I might say, "Oh, you should be participating more in the boot camp." Okay, so I see Numini said create a vault, right? Exactly. So we want to create a vault. No pressure. Well, I mean, I do want to apply a little bit of, well, no, no. I mean, there's no pressure in terms of like, doing poorly. That's totally fine. But I am definitely going to apply more pressure than I did during the beginner course because this one I'm going to be testing your responses during the workshops as well. So if people aren't posting in the workshops, I won't be able to give you your certificate float. Oh, Lanford's here. Hey, Lanford. So what function could I call in here to create a vault? What is the function called? Create vault, right? Great job. Good. So a couple of you got that one, right? Yes, good job. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let vault be token dot create vault. Also, this is being imported from 4, I think, right? Create vault. Boom. And how do I add a transaction argument here? Because I don't want to have to hard code this every time. So how can I make a little modal pop up on the side here? How can I add a transaction argument? And also remember, no worries if someone answers before you. That's totally fine. I would still post your answer anyway. Nice, Amethyst. Great. Great job. So we're gonna add a argument right here. So let's say we want to add a balance that's a ufix 64. Okay. Now we can put balance here, and we should. Okay, well it's giving us an error. Um, Now this we don't really cover this. Oh, this is too important. But what does this error mean for us right here? Loss of resource. What line can I add here to get rid of this error? Very simply. Nice, Raven. You got the concept. But what could... Right, exactly. Good job, Bruce. But what could I put here? What exact line should I put here to get rid of this error? Assuming I want to destroy it. It's 2 words. Nice, Amethyst. Good job, UZ. Good job. Destroy vault. Perfect. So now we get rid of the loss of resource error, right? And good job, CH. Um, so now we want to save this to storage. So let's say instead of destroying it, we want to save it to storage, right? How can we do that? Well, we have an auth account here. Let's call it signer. And what function on the signer object can we call to save it to storage? It's pretty easy. Yep, good job, Ricardo. So signer.save, and we're going to move the vault into storage. Now we're going to store this at /storage/vault. Okay, pretty simple. So we go ahead, take the vault, and we store it here. Now we just saved it. Okay, and this is good enough. If we wanted to, we could put a balance here, and this would save the vault to storage. But if we go back to our contract here, we also want to do something with the resource interface. Now, what am what am I intending for us to do with this interface? What do I want us to do with this? And what is the purpose of this public resource interface anyway? Right, exactly, Falcon. It's a public capability, right? We want users to be able to, call deposit and balance on our vault. So we're going to make a public capability. Now, how do I do that in here? Indeed, Ricardo, it definitely is. And actually, part of the readability that we're going to be learning during like how to make your code more readable is going to be exactly that throughout the course. So I'm glad you mentioned that. For now, we'll hard code it, but you're right. So what can I do here to, get a public capability going? How can I? Right, good job, Efforlabs. Link. So signer.link, right? And we have to put the type here. So we're going to link a token.vault that is restricted to token.public. And we're going to put /public/vault, and the target is going to be /storage/vault. Good. So what this just did is this made it so that users can now publicly access this reference, which is a token.vault restricted to the public domain. So pretty cool. Okay, so let's put a balance of 100, and let's sign this from account 1. Send it. And all right, the playground says our account storage has been updated. That's because we store in a vault. Now let's sort of dive into capabilities here. Let's go to a script and let's go to import token from 4. And we're going to pass in a user's address right here. And we want to return a ufix64 to return the balance of a user's vault. So to do that, let's just go ahead down here and return 0 so we get rid of some errors. And let's say let public account. I want this to be a public account type. How can I get the public account of this user? Nice, Cheetah. Get account user. Good job. That's great. Now, what did I usually do during other, what did I use? Let's just say let's make this vault ref. What did I usually do in the beginner cadence course? I did get account, and then what did I call here? Get capability, right? And I did /public/vault. And then on that, I did .borrow, and I borrowed the type that we had linked. And in this case, the type that we had linked was a token.vault that was restricted to the public. So we're going to pass it in here. We have to make our little parentheses, and we're going to add a panic statement in case that, this wasn't in the user's account. So the user does not have a vault, period. And now we can simply say return vaultref.balance, okay? And this is great. So if we were to pass in account 1 as the argument, we would get 100. And this makes sense. So this is all a recap from the beginner cadence course. Now, what I want to do is dive into what exactly the capability is here. So, oftentimes in scripts, you'll see capabilities being used like this, but let's actually break this down into individual steps to really see what exactly the capability represents. So if we want, we're going to try to break this down. let's say let public account, like Cheetah said, equals get account user. Then we're going to say let capability equals public account dot borrow, and we're borrowing this type. Oh wait, sorry. Dot get capability slash public slash vault, and we're going to put the type here. Then we're going to say let vault ref capability dot borrow. So these two things here, you get like this. These two things here are exactly the same. Let's just get rid of the error for a second. Or no, we can't. But this right here and this right here, they're the exact same thing. In both cases, we're getting the vault ref from the capability. It's just that in this case, we're getting the public account, we're specifying the path, we're borrowing on it, and then we're panicking. But in this case, we're taking sort of like a intermediate step where we're showing exactly what the capability represents here. Now, does anyone actually know what the type of this variable is of capability? This one is public account, right? And this one is this type. But what's the type of capability here? Does anybody know? The couple people were typing. Love it. I love it. Nobody doesn't know. That's okay. Learning.
Mucho, pero no.
Todavía de que las galletas Oreo.
That. So yeah, so this is very interesting to me because the reason I'm asking this question, by the way, and also the reason that I made this day one of the course is because I noticed that a lot of people were failing this question during the beginner course. So the type is actually a capability, right? It's actually just like FR Lab said, and I think what BZ was getting at is it's like this. It's a capability surrounding this type. And then when you borrow on it, when you do capability.borrow right here, it's unwrapping the capability and just giving us the reference underneath, which is right here. All right, so we can now get rid of this. And this is the more broken down version of how to get the balance. And you'll notice if we actually execute this, we'll still get 100. So why am I teaching you this? Well, number one, I want you to get a better understanding of, when we had this before, right? What is this blob of code actually doing? Well, it's doing these three things just broken down into steps, right? Yes, Nimity, exactly. It's a capability type, whereas this one is a reference. But the other reason I'm showing you this is because I want to start talking about how to store capabilities inside of resources and structs and stuff like that. So if we were to make a contract, let's make a contract called profile. In here, I want to make a resource called identity. And in identity, I'm going to make a public let name that's a string. And I'm also going to have a vault that I want to be a reference to let's actually import token from fourth account. I want to be a token.vault restricted to token.public. All right. And I'm going to initialize this to pass in a name and a vault. The vault is going to be a reference. And I'm simply going to say self.name equals name, self.vault equals vault. What's wrong with this? Let's say I want to store this identity in account storage. What is wrong with this code right now? Does anybody know? While I create this function. Yes, BZ, exactly. And I'd be even more impressed. Does anybody know what the actual terminology is behind that? What there's a certain name for types that can be stored. Does anybody know what the name is? It's actually pretty simple, but There is like an official name for that. There's certain oh no, not Google Docs. There's a certain type that can be stored inside account storage. And we can actually look it up in the documentation, but I'm curious if anyone knows it. Yeah, storable. Exactly, BZ. Look at BZ, doing great. So there's actually something called storable types. Yeah, that's funny. Where if you go to the documentation, it'll say that, basically what it's saying is that, things that are stored inside of account storage must be storable. And non-storable types, which are things that can't be stored in storage, are functions, transactions. I don't really know I don't know how you would store a transaction in account storage, but anyway, references. So references are ephemeral, I guess. So that means that in this case, this could not be stored inside of account storage because of the fact that it has a reference and references can't be stored. So it says consider storing a capability and borrowing it. That's interesting. Maybe we'll try that. So how would I fix this code, or how would I fix this type to instead store a capability? What would I have to do? We kind of covered this a couple minutes ago in the script. BZ definitely knew that, yeah. I believe it, I believe it. Yeah, nice, Ricardo. And good job. Great job, Amethyst. Okay, so what we do is we make this a capability type. So we store the capability instead, and we can actually copy this type over here and over to here. So now this would be allowed, we could now store this inside of, yeah, we can now store this inside of storage. So let's try it out. Let's try it out. So let's go to a transaction. We'll call this create and link. We'll just call this create vault. All right. Now let's make another transaction called create identity. Let's go ahead. Oh wait, copy this code. And we're going to import token, but we're also going to import profile from account one. Alrighty. And what we're going to do is get rid of this argument. Want to some of this code. Say let identity be create. Oh, sorry. Profile dot create identity. And we have to pass in a name, which I guess we can make as an argument, and a vault. But, this vault, what does this type have to be? It has to be a capability that wraps around a token.vault, token.public. Okay. So we have to figure out how to get that inside of here. And it's pretty easy. And the reason it's pretty easy is because we kind of did that right here, right? This is the exact type we're looking for. So we know that these two lines of code must get us there. So if we were to take that code and paste it here, first get the public account of the user. But wait a minute, we don't have a user here. What if I want this user to be the signer's address? What do I put here? I want this to be the signer's address. Yeah, signer.address, exactly. So signer.address we put here, and that's the address of the signer. That'll give us its public account. Now, quick question, was this actually necessary? Did I need to do this line? Or could I have just gotten this from the auth account? Do people think I could have just gotten this from the auth account? Yeah, right. So Ricardo's right. I didn't actually have to do this. In fact, I could have easily just, yeah, exactly. So I'll show you, why this isn't necessary in a second, but let's just stick with me for now. So we got the public account. Now we got the capability by, getting the, public account and doing this. And now we're going to pass that into here, okay? We have the identity. We now want to store, signer.save the identity to storage. do /storage/identity, and we're gonna link it. Oh, actually, do we need to? Yeah, let's link it. Signer.link. We'll just link the whole identity because we don't want any. I don't want to make a resource interface, and we're gonna link it to /public/identity. The target was here. Oh, and this has to be. All right. Pretty cool. So if I want, let's say I want the name to, oh yeah, and I also promised you I would show you why I don't need this. So the reason I don't need this is because if you have, remember, an auth account can basically do everything. Oh, you want me to increase the font? Is this better? Oh, it's blurry. Oh, it's maybe because my Wi-Fi is being kind of messed with. It's fine now. Okay. I think hopefully I can keep it like this. If this is fine for everybody. Oh, it's okay. Good, good. Oh, it's blurry again. Oh no, 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 no. I'll try and keep it like this, but it might be a little hard to code. This is fine. I'll try and keep it like this. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So an auth account can basically do everything that a public account can, plus more, right? So in this case, I really don't need this. I literally could have just said signer.get capability. It's the same exact thing. Windex my monitor? Yeah, true. I'll try that after this. See if it fixes it on your guys' end. Okay. Boom. So let's pass in a name here. Let's say snowmobiles for being a rat in the chat. Oh, well, this is actually going to bring up an interesting point. But okay, I'll send this instead. Okay, let's just send this. Cool. So we saved an identity to account storage. Now let's go ahead and go to a script. What do we want to call this? We'll call this get vault balance. Now let's make another script called get balance from identity. Okay, so it's gonna be a little different. So first of all, what I'm trying to do here is in this script that we already wrote, we basically got the balance by getting the public account, then getting the capability directly to the vault, and then getting the balance, right? But what I want to do now is I want to first get the identity and then get the vault from the variable that's inside the identity. So we're going to add an extra step here, and this will all be for a good purpose in the end, I promise. So let's change this a little bit. We get the public account. That's great. But next, we want to say let capability be a capability, or let's say identity capability. And the type is going to be a capability that is a profile.identity. We have to import that up here. All right. And this is going to equal public account dot get capability from /public /identity. The type that we're trying to borrow is a profile.identity reference, right? So here's identity capability. And now once we have this, what's our next step, right? So I'm going to delete these two here, and we're just going to return a dummy reference. What's the next step here? If I want to just get this reference, how do I get that? How do I get just this type right here from the identity capability? What do I have to put here? Yeah, I have to borrow, exactly. Let's say identity capability.borrow, right? Yep. And we'll panic and say, you know what? If this doesn't work, then that's because the user didn't have an identity, right? And the type of this is just going to be the reference. We unwrapped it. Cool. And now that we have the reference, how do we get the underlying vault that was stored in there? Try and remember how I coded it in the contract without me showing you. Yeah, exactly. So profile, although I think I called it .vault, right? So the variable name is vault, right? And we have a reference to this resource. So we can simply just say .vault and we'll get this capability. So if we go back, let's say let vault capability equals identity ref .vault. And this has a type of capability. It's a long thing, so I'll just copy it. All this, right? This equals identity ref dot vault. Then we're going to say let vault ref, which is the underlying reference, equals vault capability dot borrow. And if this panics, then this is because the user does not link a vault. And then lastly, we can say return vault ref dot balance. So holy cow, that was a lot broken down into steps. But let's try and make part of this process break at different points and figure out why it broke. So first of all, let's see if this works. I don't even know if this is going to work, to be honest, but let's try it. If I pass in account 1 here, looks like it worked, right? That's great. So we somehow went through all the different steps and found our way to the balance that was inside of the identity. Now, let's try and figure out, again, at what points this could break and figure out how to deal with that. So let's say that, the first step of this process was we got the public account. Second step was to go into that public account and try and get the capability to this profile.identity. So what would happen, right? It's just pretty easy, but I still want to see if people are getting this. What would happen if this wasn't linked? If this capability was invalid, let's say? Where would this code on what line? Look at the line numbers on the left here. On what line would this code panic or break if there was no identity that was linked correctly? Yeah, it would fail on line 7 right here. So let's test that theory. Let's create a transaction to unlink identity. Unlink identity. Just copy this and get rid of all this. Does anyone know how you actually unlink a capability, by the way? I can't remember if I taught this or not. How do you unlink a capability? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's simple enough. Signer.unlink. And do you have to put a type here? Let's see if people remember this. Not that this is kind of a stupid question because in real life you would just test it, but I'm just curious if people remember this at all. Do you have to put a type here? Yeah. This is like those tests in school where you like start screaming at your teacher, like, why do I have to know this? Because I could just, like, in real life, I could just test it. But I think it's yeah, it is difficult. But I think learning this way is sometimes interesting because it forces you to kind of remember. But no, you don't actually. You literally can just put a path here. So if you just put a path here, it'll just unlink everything. But yeah, BC also just copy all of this code. So if we pass in, or if we sign this, let's send it. Let's try it again. Execute. And it broke. The user does not have an identity. Okay. Right, fair enough. Let's go ahead and relink it, just to continue with our example. What was it again? I think it's just this line. Yeah, copy this line. Boom. All right, so we're going to link it again. Then this. We just sent it. And it should fix that code. If we go back and try it again, will it give us an error this time? No. All right. So what about, let's say that, or I'll ask this question. Is it possible for a user to have a valid identity like link, but have an invalid vault link? Like, is it possible for us to be able to access the user's identity, but not their vault underlying that identity? Is that possible? Or is it, or if a user has an identity, then we guaranteed know that they have a correct vault as well? Students are thinking this. Students are calculating in their heads. Pardo's onto something. Yeah, so it is possible for you to create an identity but have an invalid vault. And let's look at two ways that can happen. Either A, there's two ways that a user could have an invalid vault inside their identity. One, the user never had a proper vault link, even when it was created. Two, the user, for some reason, unlinked their vault after they created an identity. So we're going to look at option 2 here for a second. So let's say right now, right, the user we can read their balance of 100, but for some reason, the user got mad, and they got really mad, and they want to unlink their vault. Signer.unlink their vault. They're like, you know what, screw you. And we send this, right? Now when we go to read the balance, what line do we think this is going to panic on? Or where is this code going to break? What line? Yeah, 13. So if we go ahead and execute this, it's going to say, uh-oh, the user does not have a vault. So the reason I'm teaching you this is because I want you to be aware of the fact that sometimes when you are storing capabilities inside of accounts, you can't always rely on these capabilities being valid. And this actually gets, into like a lot of, I often audit a lot of contracts on Flow. And one of the biggest mistakes that I always see when people code is they assume that these capabilities will always be valid. And what they'll do is, for example, just picture this, like just try and follow me for a second. Let's say you have like an NFT contract where you have some sort of, you give users collections, and inside of a different resource you store a capability to their collection, so that when the user does some sort of action, you then take action on their capability, right? You update some information inside their collection for some reason. But the problem is that what a user can do is they can unlink their collection or their capability, and then the admin can no longer update stuff inside their collection. It can no longer update that information. So it's possible for a user to completely mess with their capabilities and unlink them, and then you can't access them all the same anymore. So you can't always rely on capabilities being valid like that. Okay, so it's just something to be aware of. If it was a private link, it's the same exact thing because a user can unlink their private paths. Yeah, so a user can unlink their public or private paths, both the same way. Yeah, yeah. Okay, and now another thing is you also can't rely on users passing in valid capabilities upon creation. And let's take a look at that. So let's say, for example, if I was to go to, let's say I want to get the balance, right? This is back to the original script. Let's say I want to get the balance from account 3, right? If I run this, it says account 3 doesn't have a vault, right? But account 3 could still create an identity. And let's see how. So if I was to go to create identity here, and I was to call this Raven, right? And I run this with account 3, what's going to happen is it's going to try to say let capability, right? And it's going to borrow this on or sorry, it's not going to borrow it. It's going to get the capability from account 3. But because we're never borrowing it, or we're never getting the reference underneath or even checking it, this capability is completely invalid, right? This capability is completely invalid for account 3. But it's going to work anyway, right? Because remember, capabilities, they don't have to be valid. They can be invalid, but it's still the same type. So if we were to run this, it works, right? Even though, right, if we're to go here and try this with account 3, it's going to say vault is not linked. So what is something, does anyone know of a function? I'm curious if anyone knows of a function that we can use to check if this capability is valid or not. Check if the capability valid. Yeah. There's two ways we can do it, actually. There's two ways. One, check function. What's the second way? Oh, yeah, I guess there's three ways then. Yeah. What's the second way? Yeah, try to borrow it. Exactly. So let's try all three. Let's try number one. So the first way is to use this .check function. You can say assert. Oh yeah, does everyone know what assert does, by the way? Some people didn't know what assert does, but assert is basically like, it's essentially like a panic statement, but you're asserting that something is true. So you say like, okay, if true equals true, then this is true. Like if true, then we pass this. But if this is false, then it panics and does this message. So you can use assert statements to like make sure that things are true before continuing. So if we assert, capability, a check, dot check returns a true or false. In fact, let me try and get the documentation for you. Where is it? God, the docs are nowadays. We'll try it here. Check. Oh, here we go. Right here. So if you take a look at here and search check, it'll actually explain to you. The function returns true if the capability currently targets an object that satisfies the type. Blah, 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 right? So basically, if the capability is valid, then it will return true. But if it returns false, then we want to say, wait, the capability is invalid. So if we were to try this with account 2, for example, and pass in Ricardo, it would say, uh-oh, sorry, the capability is invalid. That's one way. The second way is to try to borrow it. So if we say let dummy reference equals capability.borrow, right? We can then panic, say same message, wait, the capability is invalid. And then we don't have to do anything with that reference, but we know that it passed. And the third way is say does not equal nil. We can say assert capability.borrow not equal nil. Otherwise, panic. Just like that. And these two are kind of the same exact thing. Yes, it is possible to relink the capability. So users can link and relink at any time. Exactly. Fabricio. Yeah, exactly. So the best way to do this is here. Dot check. Dot check is the best way with capabilities. So I'll get rid of these two, and that's all good. All right. Now, sort of my last remaining question here is, what is the problem with this being at the transaction layer as opposed to in here? Any thoughts? And while you're thinking about that, I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so I think you guys are getting at it. I think NGIO is definitely, I think NGIO is on the target there. It's that with transactions, a user can run any transaction they want. So technically, in this case, a user could still run their own transaction that doesn't have this check in it, right? So usually it's the most safe and just the best if you put that check inside of here. So if we were to take this assert statement, put it here, we assert that vault is a valid capability, right? And that way, even if users are on other dApps or other platforms or other applications or running their own backends, whatever it is, anytime someone interacts with this contract, they have to pass in a valid vault or else it just is not going to work. And, yes, you still do run into the problem of later down the road, a user could unlink their vault at any point, and then you'd have to just make sure you handle that appropriately. But at least for setting up, right, this will fix that problem. And usually, the truth is that usually these assert statements like this, they're not, or checking the valid capability here, it's not really for security purposes because, again, users can always unlink their vaults. It's really just to make sure that users aren't setting up their things incorrectly. So a lot of the times, you don't want your users to, you don't want your users to be able to make this mistake, because if they do, then you're gonna have to fix it for them down the road, or you're not gonna be able to read their balances correctly. So usually you just want to put this assert statement here to help your users, right? Not really about security, but helping them out in a sense. Um, so yeah. And this ties into like a broader idea that any time that you're setting up users' accounts or you're helping users get started, you always want to put the most amount of checks in place to make sure they do it correctly, for their sake, right? So how would you handle user unlinking their vault? You couldn't, right? The idea is that with this sort of thing, you just want to make sure that if the user does unlink their vault, it's not going to be like a security problem, and you're not going to lose out on storing data and stuff like that. So it's more just a matter of making sure that if the user does unlink this, is it a problem, and if it is, maybe I have to change my architecture around a little bit. Great question, Fabricio. You could also do that. However, I always recommend putting things at the lowest level you possibly can. And the reason for that is because let's say you put the assert statement in that function. This would work exactly the same, and it would work totally fine. However, let's say that for some reason later down the road you add another function, and you're doing a similar thing. You're passing in a name for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why you would do this, but let's say for some reason you're doing the same thing. The problem here is that let's say that, similar function, but you forget to put this assert statement here. You're gonna have to copy this, paste it here again. So it usually makes sense to put things at the lowest level possible. That way, anytime, it doesn't matter where it is, but anytime you create an identity, it will always have this assert statement here. That way you're not copying code and duplicating it and stuff like that. So short answer is it would be the same thing, but the longer answer is, it's better to put it at the lowest level possible so that you never have to worry about doing, checking it again. Of course, great, awesome question, Fabricio. Also, Numini, I can't remember what my train of thought was, honestly. But I think I was saying a problem for the you as the project owner. Especially if you're expecting, to update user data. So actually, you know what? A great example of when this would be a problem is with dynamic NFTs. So sometimes what happens is, actually, how do I explain this? Can I pull up my trying to think of how to explain this. Let me pull up my dynamic NFT example. Hold on, let me do this off screen for a second. Developer. Wait, my repository. Searching GitHub right now for my code. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is a dynamic NFT standard I created to try and allow projects to basically have, I mean, what it is like, have the users have dynamic NFTs. So if we go to the contract, you'll see that what's happening is the administrator, right? I'll increase this code for you. The administrator has what's called an update metadata function, where they can pass in an address and an ID. So, like, for example, an ID of 3 exists in account 1's collection. And what they do is they try and borrow the owner's collection right here by getting the public capability. and then they call an update metadata function on the borrowed NFT reference. But an issue here, right, is what if the user decided, you know what, nah, I don't want you to update my NFTs anymore. They could unlink their collection, and all of a sudden, the admin can no longer call update metadata on their collection. So, this is sort of like you kind of have to like evaluate your risks here, right? It's like, is this really a problem? Well, if I was going to downgrade the user's NFT, this is a major problem because the user could get their NFT upgraded, unlink their collection, right? And then the admin can no longer call update metadata on their NFT. So that's a major risk. Whereas if the NFT can only get better, then this isn't really a problem because, well, if the user unlinks their NFT, it's only going to negatively affect them because otherwise the admin would have made their NFT better. So it's something to think about along those lines. And I guess one of the reasons I was trying to teach you about capabilities today was to be more aware of problems like these. So I hope that makes sense. Like giving it a better trait, for example. So if you change its rarity from like, regular to legendary or something. All right, so that is it for today. Yeah, we took a long time on that one, but I hope that was helpful. So yeah, that's all I have for you. That's a lot on capabilities, but you survived. Survived the first day. Great job. Round of applause to everyone, and thank you so much for your participation. You all did an awesome job today. And I'm super excited to watch you guys tackle your first quest. On Wednesday, we're gonna cover private capabilities and probably a little bit of poor capability links and one of the major problems of the NFT standard. So look forward to that. Double thumbs up. What did everyone think? A little more complicated, but still good. Great, awesome. If I borrow the capability with check inside, do I? Oh wait. So I think you're referring to. So you said if I borrow the capability with check inside, I think you mean this right here. Do I duplicate the error with panic? I think I don't truly understand what you mean. But I think you're saying do you need to use check and panic? No. You just have to use either one. So if you do like capability.check, then you already will know at that point if the capability is valid. And let's say you checked and then you wanted to get the reference, so let reference equals capability.borrow. At this point, you shouldn't do panic, right? Because at this point, you already know that the capability is valid. So instead of panicking, I would simply just add a force unwrap operator here because you know this is always going to succeed. Easy once again with the basic piece.
The emojis are like votes. So the more people who are laughing means that they, are requesting it as well.
Oh, really? Okay, let's do a live review. Live review, and it looks good to me. Yeah, it looks good.
I was like so happy, like, oh, really? He's going to go through it? Nice.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, if there are capabilities in here, I will review it because maybe that'd be fun for
There
you.
is actually. It's the Sale collection, right? Because it's a copy pasta of NBA Top Shot, the version 3. So what I'm actually wondering about is just like, well, what if they unlink? What should I actually do? Should I just I don't even know if I can do anything from the front end side, because these are like, private fields.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so this is a good example of what we're talking about today, guys. So, in a lot of marketplaces, you'll see this on NBA Top Shot or literally any marketplace where you have like a resource sale collection, and you'll have like a all-encompassing capability to a collection to be able to withdraw, right, if a sale goes through, and also a capability to like some sort of payment mechanism so that you can withdraw from the NFT from here and deposit the funds to here. But in this case, it's fine, right? Because if you go to purchase something, and the collection is no longer linked, then this will just fail, right? So the user, won't have their funds stolen. And in addition, if for some reason the user were to unlink their, fungible token deposit, reference here, then or capability here, then it will also just fail because inside the purchase function, when you go to here, when you go to deposit, it'll just panic when you force unwrap right here. So, if the user does unlink their NFT collection, or if the receiving person unlinks their FUSD vault, then it's just gonna fail and the sale won't go through. So it would be inconvenient, but it's nothing. There's no security risk here.
Yeah. It's not too much about the security, but it's just more about like, let's say that someone actually unlinked, like I would have no idea from the front end side that, that the transaction is going to fail. That's what I'm thinking. If you can follow me, Jacob.
Yeah, the trend. Oh, I see. You're saying like, how do you basically make sure that this isn't going to fail when you try it?
Yeah, or if things has been unlinked, like what could I do about it, like from the front end standpoint?
Well, you could basically check, number one, is this capability valid? Because you can do this in a script. You can say, you know what, like, write a script to make sure that this is valid. And if it is, then great. And you could also
But
do
I
that.
can't because these are access self, right? So I can't like.
You can, because you can check this individually. Like, you don't have to go through the sale collection to get this. You can just go directly to, the same way that
Oh yeah,
today,
you're right. Yeah.
like,
Sorry. Yeah.
we went through the identity to get the vault, but here you can just go directly to the vault. So you can do that here as well. Um, the only thing that you're going to run into is, well, how do I check that this is valid? Because in a script, you can't access a, private capability, let alone a, something like this. But we're going to cover this later in the course where you can use something called get auth account inside of a script to get an auth account in a script, and you could check this is valid as well. I can help you write this. If you make a developer forum post, I'll actually write you a script that checks these two if you want. And maybe people can learn from that. But we will learn this later in the course also.
Nice. Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So Numini says, can you explain what a capability is in English? Yeah. So I'll try. Um, so I think this diagram is the most helpful. Essentially, a capability is a pointer to storage. It's like a virtual pointer to something in storage. So, inside of storage, you have a bunch of data, right? And from the public and private sector is where you're pointing to that data. Capability that's coming from the public path is saying everyone can use this pointer, whereas a private, a capability that's coming from the private path is saying only people that I've delegated access to can, basically use this pointer. So it's really just like a arrow or a pointer to data that's living in storage. And when you link a capability, you're creating that pointer, and when you're unlinking it, you're getting rid of that pointer. I hope that helps to explain. So outside from this context, how to get historical data from the blockchain, for example, get all events from a collection from the start. That's a great question, Fabricio. I would ask a question inside the developer forum, because I will give you a better answer there, because that's sort of unrelated to this this material. Yeah, sure thing. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna officially end things there. Thanks everyone for coming, and I'll see you on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks everybody.